Hi, this is Molecular with DNB Academy, and today we're going to be talking about how to add warmth to digital sounding synths. So I'm going to show you how you can turn something that sounds like this, which already on its own sounds good, into something like this. So before we get started, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so we can keep making more of these videos. So what is going on here? We're not using something extra or super complex. We're just using simple techniques and simple basic understanding of how analog synths, old school analog synths work. So I'm just gonna get everything to sound quite dry. Okay, get rid of these two effects. So right now we just have the notes, which, don't get me wrong, they're still quite important to achieve the sound. So basically, old school analog synths, over time, the oscillators would have a little bit of slew and drift. So the pitch wouldn't always be precise. So if you only have one oscillator and you modulate the pitch in a non-precise way, so what I'm doing here is I'm using a rhythm that's not, it's syncopated in a way, so it's not fixed to an actual beat. You could just put this in off mode, in non-BPM mode, and just let it drift. So we could do that. It's already having a lot more life than this super stable digital sound. Now it becomes even better when we have two oscillators and they're kind of drifting against each other. So we're already getting this chorus type feeling. And if you have more oscillators, you can do the same and keep going. Now, something that's also gonna make it sound more analog is to have a slow moving chorus. Not a lot of it. So we've already come a long way. Now, in order to make it even more old school type, we could do a little bit of bit reduction and even add some jitter. There we go. Now, we don't want something with a lot of top end, and we don't want something with a lot of high mids, because we want it to sound warm. And basically, to make things sound warmer, you just shape a little bit off of that top end and compensate by adding mid-range and low end. I'm not adding low end on this specific example because the note is already quite loud, so I'm just actually bringing it down. But you want more mid-range and less top end. Then another step, and something that will make stuff sound warmer and more analog, and you could even argue more vapor wavy, is to add wow and flutter. So any tape emulation plugin will be able to do this. There's some free ones. This used to be free. I'm not sure if it still is, but I'm basically just having a little bit of drive, a little bit of noise, a little bit of wow, a little bit of flutter, a little bit of wear, which is going to give you some mechanical noise as well. And then you can even do some like low pass or high pass, make it sound even older, like it's going through a tape. So let's listen to this. Lovely. And then I'm using the Tal chorus, which is an emulation of the old Juno choruses. So this will immediately make it sound better. Just look at that. The tape is adding a little bit too much drive, but then I'm connecting that with Soothe. This is what we're fixing. Obviously, not all needs to be bad and destroyed and old. We can have the good aspects of the old school sound and the good aspects of the new sound, which is not sounding bad and destroyed. So it's already sounding quite good. It's just super dry. It needs some echo. And this is not a regular echo. This echo has not a lot of top end, not a lot of low end. It's a filter type of echo, like a tape echo. It's kind of fluttering a little bit between the left and right. So it kind of creates this chorus feeling. And then on the modulation, I'm modulating a little bit of the delay time and a little bit of the filter. So it kind of moves a little bit. If I put it all the way up to the wet, we can hear that. And then on the character, I have a little bit of noise that's being morphed. And I have a little bit of random wobble, morphing the delay itself. So this is what it would sound like. So you can definitely feel the repeats are kind of wobbling a little bit. You could make it more intense. You can feel it like floating around. There we go. Now we just want a little bit of this. And now obviously the last part has nothing to do with sounding warmer or more analog. It's just a normal reverb. Obviously you could go for a vintage sounding reverb. This is a downsampled preset and only goes up to 10K. So it's gonna sound a little bit warmer than your typical digital reverb. And even if we open the filter, it's still gonna be quite warm. Now, something that you could do to give this even some extra vibe is to have something like a peak filter moving randomly before the echoes and the reverb. So we could do that with an LFO, or you could just record your own modulation, or you could do whatever. With an LFO, you would grab an LFO, go over to audio effects, modulator, LFO. Let's create a random peak. Let's map this frequency here. It's quite random. And now we go over here and we set the minimum. Let's go minimum around for like 300 and maximum right around there. Make it a little bit slower. So it's always a little bit different. So it even adds a little bit more to the random specifics of the analog world. And another fun way in Serum to have this sort of random is the chaos LFOs. You can put them to sample and hold, which is basically what this little guy is doing. It's just random. And then you can assign this to stuff like the pitch and whatever. So you're going to get random wobbles and modulations over time of your pitch, and of course other parameters as well. You could assign, for example, this to the filter cutoff, so you would get slow modulations. Let's do chaos 2 to the filter cutoff. Let's go. It's quite random. So there we go. And then I also had this other synth, which basically goes through the same process. So we could remove all of the analog life that we're giving to it. Sounds like a typical saw wave reverb sound. Let's give it some life. There we go. Lovely stuff. You can implement this to anything. Synths, pads, textures, even like effects and other types of sounds. Like anything that's musical, you can implement these slow random modulations, and you would very quickly arrive at a warmer, more analog sound, and maybe step away from the 2 digital sounds that you have. You could try it with bass sounds, but normally, you know, in drum and bass, you want a lot more control over bass sounds. As you know, it can be very, very technical. So it's probably a little bit harder to experiment, but you can still experiment with that. But yeah, this was Molecular with DNB Academy. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something from it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe so we can keep making more of these videos. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.